Hi, I'm Natalie,
And I'm Hannah.
and we're with A.wordsmith, a boutique PR firm in Portland, Oregon that specializes in thought leadership, PR, and writing.
We're doing a special thought leadership series via Zoom during this time of social distancing to offer insight and advice on social media, content, media relations, and more.
Our first video is all about what to keep in mind when you're planning your social media strategy and content for the next few months.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us on Instagram at awordsmith.com, Twitter at awordsmith, Facebook, and our website, www.awordsmith.com.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, everybody. I'm Natalie O'Grady. I'm a senior account manager here at A.wordsmith, and I also lead the social media work that we do here at the firm.
And I'm Hannah. I'm a senior associate at A.wordsmith, and I'm excited to chat with Natalie today about social media during this pandemic. We really decided to do this because we know that a lot of businesses are a little confused right now about what best practices to follow, and we wanted to do our part in helping people manage this. So I think Natalie's going to kick things off by talking about why we decided to talk about social media specifically today.
Yeah, so I think a lot of companies, whether you're a small business or you're a social media manager at a large corporation, I think everybody's a little confused, understandably, right now about what you should be doing on social, what's appropriate. Should you still be posting sales? Should you be doing ads? There's a lot of questions, and honestly, the answer to all of them is really depends. And it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what your social strategy has been in the past, what platforms you have, what kind of business you are. So rather than give specific tips that are across the board correct for everyone, because you're just never going to get that, we wanted to pull together some things that you should be considering and apply it to your own business, your own social media strategies, and hopefully these ideas will give you a little bit, shed a little bit more light on what you should be doing at this time.
Great. So just to kick it off, we have about 5 tips today for people trying to manage social. So for the first one, Natalie, for people who really want to share health tips and advice for their followers right now, what is some advice you have for doing that?
I think the key thing here is leave it to the experts. So if you're a business in the healthcare space and you're already established with your followers as a place they can go for information on healthcare and wellness and that kind of thing, that's great. You can, use what you've already got in place. You can use your own internal experts to talk about it. That's awesome. But if you are, say, a retail business or something in the tech space and not related to healthcare, you don't necessarily want to be sharing advice from your people as experts in healthcare. So in this case, we would recommend just sticking to guidelines from the CDC and the World Health Organization. They do have a lot of really shareable graphics that they're sharing on their own channels that you can use. There's plenty of links that you can share and still get the message across that you care about your followers and your customers and want to help, while still keeping it in appropriate guidelines.
So what about for people who tend to schedule their content a week or maybe even a month in advance?
So that is actually something, in normal times we would always be recommending that you do, where you can schedule posts a month out. That's awesome. It takes a lot off your plate. It lets you be a little bit more strategic in the moment when you know you have content going up. So just because you're scheduling a month out, you still need to be paying attention, of course. But right now, that could really get you into a pretty serious problem if you have content that's pre-scheduled, but now seems very tone deaf or out of place given the current situation. It could be an unfortunate misstep for your brand. So we recommend right now definitely not scheduling posts a month out. The situation is still changing every single day. The needs of customers are changing every day in terms of this situation. So we recommend keeping it to just a week out if you schedule at all, knowing that social media does take a lot of time. There's a lot of effort that has to go into it. This may put a little bit more work on your plate, but in the long run, it will just be better for your brand overall. So if you schedule it all, stick to just a week and make sure you're checking in on it every day.
So, Natalie, what about people who really do want to acknowledge the coronavirus and use a lot of language around it in every post? What advice do you have for companies and like how they're talking about it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And this is a really good example of what we were talking about at the beginning of the answer being depends. It depends on who you are. But there are a couple things to keep in mind no matter who you are, what your company is, or what you do for your customers. So, of course, everything that you post is going to be viewed in light of the current situation now. So, you definitely don't want to ignore it altogether, of course, because that would seem really weird, but you don't have to make every post directly about it. You don't have to start every post with a, we hope you're doing okay. We understand this is a really difficult time. Of course, acknowledge that, but people are really looking for positive stories, positive things to look forward to, ways to keep themselves well and happy at home. So it's okay to post things that aren't necessarily um, so couched in that sincere concern space. But at the same time, you also want to be cognizant of how certain words you are using could be perceived by other people. So I've seen some content and actually even gotten emails myself from people that use phrases like, I hope you're staying sane during this time. And I get the sentiment, of course, and they're just hoping that I'm doing okay. But it's not really inclusive language to say that. And it can kind of get you into not even a gray area. It could get you into a bad spot with mental health and how that can be perceived by people who might be really struggling right now. So we would recommend keeping your language to things like staying well, um, keeping it to specific ideas to maintain wellness that aren't dictated by your your health or your body size or your mental health or any of that. Just consider that each word that you use might be looked at a little differently now, even if there's good intentions behind it. So just err on the side of caution.
Mhm. So, in addition to considering like the people who are reading your posts and being um, sure that you're using inclusive language and you're being considerate of that, is there another audience that you should be considering when you're talking about the coronavirus on social?
Definitely your own internal audience. I know a lot of companies have been put in really unfortunate positions over the last couple weeks. There are a lot of people in the United States and globally right now without jobs. Um, I know we're all hoping in a few months maybe that situation will look very different. But the fact is, right now, there are a lot of unemployed people. There's a lot of companies that have had to downsize. There's a lot that aren't sure they're maybe even going to make it through this. So even if you are lucky enough to be a company that hasn't had to let people go or really felt an effect there, you should consider how your employees are coping. If everyone's working from home, that's great that they still have a job. That's awesome that you're able to keep operations going, but consider that things are still kind of hard for everyone. Even the people that are able to work from home, they're having their own struggles. So when you're posting on social as your brand, consider that your employees are also seeing this content. Consider how you can make them a part of your content if you haven't done that before. That's something during normal times that's great to do too. It really can humanize your brand. It can help your employees feel like they are very much a part of what your brand is and where it's going. So consider how they might be able to be a part of this. And also consider if you have had to make some tough decisions and let people go, how you're addressing that on social and how content you're posting looks in light of that.
Great. So, for people who are considering their internal and external audiences who decide to post about the pandemic or not acknowledge it at all, no matter what they're doing, what is the biggest thing that you recommend just keeping in mind right now on social?
I would say the biggest thing is to remember what your brand is and who you are, and don't try anything new with your brand voice right now. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't take advantage of this unique situation and try some new things in terms of using Facebook Live if you haven't done that before, maybe getting more into Instagram. That's great. You should definitely be trying these things if you can. There's a lot of opportunities to connect with people in ways that maybe you didn't have the capacity for earlier or maybe you hadn't thought of before, and that's a great opportunity. But when it comes to who you are as a brand, really understand that and stick with it right now. So if you were a brand that, was really into political statements before, or you have certain values that your company is tied to and you were vocal about that, that's great. You can keep doing that. But if you're a company that wasn't very vocal with your values or wasn't tied to a certain political statement before, now is probably not the time to try that out. And if it is something you feel compelled to do, something you feel like it's something you have to do for your own ethics or morals, that's okay. But just know that the effect from that, positive or negative, will stick with you well past this current situation. So, with all five of those things together, like we said at the beginning, it's not anything that you could just apply broadly and get your content drafted and scheduled and just let it go out like normal. This is all definitely not normal times for all of us, but there's some special considerations for people working in social media in particular. So we hope that these five things will at least get you started thinking about how you can still be strategic, how you can be serving your customers, and how you can hopefully be doing some good right now. So just keep the people you serve at the front, both internal and external audiences, and be human and extend grace to other people, and they will extend the same grace to you, we hope. So it'll be a learning experience for everyone, but I really do think when this is all settled, there will be some really great things that can come out of it.
Well, thanks, Natalie. We hope that this is helpful for some people watching this. I would say that if anybody has any questions at all, that they can feel free to reach out to Natalie or me, and we'll try our best to answer it. We're also trying to navigate this new world. So, and we're also going to be coming out with a video next week to talk about communication during the coronavirus, outside of just social media, all kinds of communication. So tune in for that. And yeah, just thanks for watching. Thank you,
Yeah.
Natalie.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, everybody.